Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoe and Show. Thanks for joining us this week. Brand new episode every Monday. New episode Shoe and Show for 10 years now. Nearly 10 years has been going on. So we appreciate you listening to this episode. As always, at the front of the show, I do remind people shoeandshow.com is our full website where you can go back and listen to all the episodes we've dropped. I'd even say going back a couple years, the content we have on this is still like very relevant. I know there's a lot of disruption and a lot of issues, but I think there's still some really great conversations for people to go back to. But I'm excited on today's episode. This is one of our top speakers for our Sustainability and Innovation Summit that we just wrapped up a few weeks ago in Portland, Oregon. Super dynamic event. Justin Ter Har, welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you for having me, Andy. I'm excited
Tell
to be
me right off the bat, and I'll get into kind of where we're going to go today with everything. But you've been to the event before, I do believe. But how did you find it this year? Like content, energy level, etc. Just to let people know, I don't want to harp on it too much on my end, but I like a clean set of eyes and ears to kind of look at it and see what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was able to join the first one, or not the first one, the one last year.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get to see any events before that. But what I noticed from last year to this year's conference was I think there was a re-excitement around innovation and really how to apply some of the sustainability efforts moving forward. I felt like before, even though there was a lot of good content, it was really a little bit more drier around maybe the science behind LCAs or maybe the legalities behind claiming any things around, those types of claims. But what I noticed this year, and I think it was a bit more collaborative and really being from my area of expertise, getting to talk about innovation and really get to talk about both on the manufacturing side, the new materials side, to more of the performance. Performance materials is a really exciting topic for us. I noticed a big difference this year in terms of kind of more applied science and kind of what we're doing, boots on the ground, rather than the ideal things moving forward.
Yeah, I think good, because I think we were trying to hit where the rubber meets the road, right? So we've been talking a lot about strategy for a long time, and now we're at the point where we're having challenges with implementation of sustainability into product, and part of that I think is trying to innovate our way through that in a number of ways. So again, it's Justin Ter Har with us today. He is the Director of Research and Design at Insight. So exactly what does a Director of Research and Design at Insight do? What's your daily kind of grind? I know you like work in a lab, so always interested. I don't see you in a lab coat. Maybe that is a lab coat. Maybe that's just a very unique lab coat.
Yeah, this is my daily lab coat. I like wearing Hawaiian shirts as my lab coat, but we're a different kind of lab. It's not necessarily like a chemistry lab or a lab that you see like in Asia doing physical property testing. It's really I consider it more of an experience lab. So we're trying to measure the user experience while testers are using products, and try to use the best methods to quantify the in-shoe comfort. I know I was on your podcast a few years ago, kind of talking about how we quantify comfort. So we put that on steroids. We've actually grown into our own lab, which is out here in Los Angeles, really for a few different benefits there, but which I can get into. But in general, my position as Director of Research Design, I get to kind of measure and quantify and also kind of test out the new products that we're looking at. I get to kind of look at the horizon of materials that are coming through in our space. At Insight, we look at performance materials as, what is it durability? Is there, a certain performance requirement like energy return that needs to be met? Or is there a performance benefit being had by using a biomaterial, right? And that's how we kind of use our lab. My main background is in biomechanics. Really, that's physics applied to the human body. We take that one step further of looking at both how do shoes change the physics that are applied to the human body, but also how does it change the overall experience? One thing I noticed a lot when going through a lot of academic research is no one ever asked the tester in the study, how did you feel in that shoe? It was always caring about their physics. but no one ever asked, how does this feel? How does this fit for you? So I think we've built a nice lab here to really measure and quantify the experience, both around perception, both around the feeling and performance of the materials and how they function underfoot, all the way to using like high-speed footage. We actually just installed a new high-speed camera. It's running around 2,000 frames per second to really look at the upper and midsole deformation. It's not really quantified in any sake, but it's something where developers we work with can actually look really closely at the material as they're being used on humans.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time we kind of focused or did some content around things. You guys, I think, were at a university still working and talking to folks, and now you've got your own lab. So I would call it like a real life lab, right? Like you're actually trying to see like
Yes.
the application in real life, not from a technical or academic standpoint. Although those are important, I think, for creating guardrails for how you measure and think about comfort. But
Yep.
so that's great, and the frames is very interesting too, because I think a lot of people, I don't know. It's just interesting that you guys are like looking at the different issues that are occurring, because I think that's a question that I've always had is like, where do we see the product fail on the consumer's foot? Because that's the area that you could put more effort into to get more durability out of, or more material
Yep.
in, or something to change the comfort. So I guess around this kind of real life lab that you guys run, you said that you focus a lot on like kind of the comfort, and so there's this concept you guys have of proving comfort testing. What does that even mean? Like, how do you prove
Yeah.
comfort? Like, because I can wake up one day and feel really bad and be kind of grumpy, and then one day I'll wake up and be really happy. So how do you kind of
Yes.
get me into a
That is
method or a
a great
scientific
question.
way?
Proven comfort is basically what we consider our first attack, our first line of defense when evaluating shoes in our lab. It's a combination of 3 tests, and it really just encompasses from the most objective tests we can do in terms of cushioning, all the way to how does it actually work on humans. We're not necessarily proving anything. That's a very good marketing term around the system, but what we're generally trying to do is quantify their overall experience from objective standpoint, being machine testing, to human perception testing, using the best methods in psychology and perception science to really measure and quantify that experience in the shoe. So in our lab, we have those three metrics. We have one, which are cushioning tester. Two, it's underfoot plantar pressure testing. So we have a insole, the small piece of material that goes under the foot and the top of the insole to measure in-shoe plantar pressure. And then we also have 13 to 15 questions that are around the fit, comfort, the cushioning, the energy return, all the different experience inside the shoe. So we use all that data to then correlate, is this matching up with both the objective testing and the in-shoe testing? And we don't just test on one person. We test on 5 to maybe 20 people in our lab. We try to collect as many people as possible, so we're not making any drastic decisions off of one specific person's viewpoint. And we try to move really quickly. Working with brands, especially, they want information turned back in around a couple weeks to a month. Sometimes when you work with academic labs, it might take longer, like a month or two. In our lab, we try to turn around stuff in a week or two, so we can get answers back really quickly. That's why we're in Los Angeles, really for the talent. We have a good partnership with University of Southern California, their master's degree in biokinesiology. So we have a lot of interns from that program in our lab, and prior students from that program that actually work on our lab. Two, we have a ton of recruitment. We used to have our lab in Bend, Oregon, which is a great place, but highly limited for recruiting subjects. There's only about 100,000 people in Bend, Oregon. There's, I think, 9 million around the Los Angeles area.
A
So
little bit more.
we really had to grow our systems. The goal was to build up our speed, and we've hit that for sure. We've been able to turn around studies in 2 to 4 days.
So typically how it works is you guys are working with a brand and you're helping them better understand the product as they're developing it in real time and kind of testing it out and doing that to get them feedback. And what you're saying is you can do it in a week, whereas most labs might take a month or more.
Yeah. Some labs. I mean, if you have your own internal lab, like at a brand, for example, you could sometimes turn that testing around in like a week. But in general, when working with like a third party, it takes a longer amount of time. So we just try to be as quick as we can for like the industry standard, and give back objective results. A lot of the time, I sit there and I mentioned this at the the show, the sustainability event, a couple weeks ago. Sometimes the results I present to our clients aren't always good. Doesn't mean we didn't find anything, or we at least know the next steps to move forward. But a lot of the times it's no, it didn't perform as we thought it did, but we're going to do XYZ to get there, or we're going to change out with this material. We're going to change the form and design. So a lot of my job is trying to think about, okay, what are the next steps? Not just, oh crap, we didn't find anything, but what are the steps in the pathway
Well,
to
there's
get
always
to where
learnings, right? That's
the
the thing, is
claim.
you test to learn. It's not a failure if you're like moving it
Mhm.
forward. So the
Exactly.
worst thing is to give false information. They make the shoe and no one likes it. So
Yes.
it's better to be
I'm
honest
I,
upfront.
I'm part of the sales team sometimes, but I'm the most honest part of the sales team. And I try to be, hey, we have to be super direct, very transparent. I kind of set a real standard for us. And when we present our data, we're like, hey, we're a partner with you in this. We're both looking for the same goal here. So let's work together and let's not BS each other while we're trying to develop
Yeah.
something.
Let me ask you, like, just from your perspective over the last couple of years, like, what's the latest trend in terms of comfort? I mean, I've seen a lot more material in the midsole, a lot more
Mhm.
thickness, things like that. But like, what are we looking for? Like, what are consumers looking for? Is it energy return? Is it? Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you ask somebody, they're going to say everything, right? I want a cheap shoe that
Yes.
performs really well and lasts forever. Okay, great. But like, in realistic terms, like, what are some successful brands like leaning into specifically? Like, what is it?
Mhm.
Is it density? Is it return? Like, what's is it lighter?
Yes. So I think what I've noticed for at least the last 5 years or more, there's a trend in all shoes having high energy return, right? All
Okay.
shoes having high stack heights, all shoes having extra cushioning. I think there's a bit of that coming back, like the pendulum's kind of swinging back towards the center. And I notice a lot of brands more looking at cushioning systems, both from the insole and the midsole, combined together to improve the overall cushioning and durability in the shoe, but not necessarily maximizing the stack height. I think for it definitely is a fashion statement. There, we see all the maximalist type designs now, but I think in general, when it comes back to the center, I think in the creative things I've been seeing is brands really looking at what the material is and how they're layering the materials and building it together to get the best pack or best bang for your buck, or punch, if you will, in a smaller stack height, in a smaller thing. So you can have materials that last longer in a smaller stack height, but also feel better. And I think energy return, we lead with that in the development space. We say,
Right.
oh, energy return is what everyone wants. That makes it lively, and it's the first cushioning feel that you get out of the shoe. There is another metric, which is shock absorption. That's actually even more important. That's the long-term cushioning in the shoe. So that initial bounce in the shoe is energy return, where shock absorption would be that overall cushioning and shock absorption feel you get
So
in
it's
the shoe.
it's almost like when you step in the store, it's the first part is
Mhm.
the energy return. They're still loving it 2 months later is the shock absorption, right? Like they go,
Yes. And those both should last in the shoe. But what we notice when we do durability testing, the first thing to go is energy return.
yeah,
That's the liveliness of the material. So once that goes, at what point does the user decide for themselves, oh, that's not giving me enough, energy return. That's not giving enough cushioning. When should I replace my shoe? So finding when that occurs as well is an important
right.
piece of the pie
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with that too. It's like because around that too is like where you can develop consumer engagement where you're like, hey, you typically come and buy a new pair of shoes every 3 months. It's toward the end of the third month. Like, here's either a pair of new insoles or here's a coupon to buy a new pair. There's just consumer engagement we don't have enough of in our industry, in
Mhm.
my opinion, that people should be like leaning into a lot more. And a lot of that is what you guys are working on, the science of figuring that out. And it's never going to be a perfect science because everybody's different. And someone may run, like, I may have 8 pairs of shoes and alternate them all. Right. So it's just
Yep.
people are weird. Obviously, if you read the news from top to bottom, everybody's weird. You were talking about a little bit about like kind of the new way of looking at it and trying to combine midsole, insole. And I'm, from your standpoint, what you guys are doing, you guys use like poured PU. You
Mhm.
focus some on like podiatrist design shape. So can you explain like what that is and like how that kind of gives you guys a competitive advantage in addition to the lab that you guys run?
Yeah, so the origin of Insight, if we go back to 2015, it started with a partnership with a podiatry group out of Miami called Footcare Express or Advanced Foot Care. They're kind of one of the first go-to podiatry clinics for both NFL, NHL, NBA, like professional sports teams, as well as brands that have athletes that they want to have outfitted in custom orthotics. So our boss was able to connect with them and started kind of getting ideas around why don't we really elevate the insoles and footwear, right? That's usually the first thing that gets removed when we're talking about the costing discussion. When the shoe looks beautiful, the designers put all of their designs on it, the colors and everything. If the costing isn't there, they're going to pull out that insole real fast because you can't see it. And so that's been an uphill battle. And our boss saw that and said, you know what? The first thing we want to look at is really the shape and form. So we created a partnership with this podiatry group, Foot Care Express, and we've been able to access over 120,000 healthy feet scans that they have in their database. They have 300 plus thousand scans, but we've been able to access that information and use those scans to build different arch shapes for different contouring in the shoe. What's really cool too is we worked really closely with them to be able to best engineer these insoles into the shoe and the bottom units. That's really important. Sometimes you can buy an aftermarket orthotic and put it in a shoe, and it works 80 to 90%. It works pretty much there. But to get a full custom experience, engineering something with the shape, especially for an insole sake, into a shoe is actually very difficult. So we work with them very closely to do that, which giving us a lot of insight, pun intended, into how footwear is built from the last sake, because the last is kind of the first thing that really sets the tone of the whole interior shoe dimensions. But then sometimes you have to kind of break those rules by building a custom orthotic, but we're building an actually OEM product, so we actually learn how to have to break it and rebuild it while building in something contouring. So it's a really unique design problem that we have, because a lot of the time the insoles that are in shoes don't have any contouring. They're flat. They give about of allowance, maybe anywhere from 3 millimeters to 5 millimeters at the heel and forefoot. Doesn't give a lot of space. So long story short, we work very closely with our podiatry partner, as well as using a lot of their 3D foot scans for our development. So when you see podiatrist-approved arch support or designed by podiatrists, that's really the ingredient. We work really closely with our podiatrist team for most of our products.
Uh, and just curious, I had a pair of walking shoes last week. The energy return was gone. The shock absorption was starting to go away. Dave at the Sustainability Summit gave me a pair of Inside insoles. So I just stacked them on top, right? So instead of pulling them out, just put them back on top. And I did notice the arch support in your insoles is a lot more than I have in
Mm-hmm.
other insole inserts. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's because, and it was noticeable. I was like, oh, like I felt my foot shift a little bit where I was like, oh, like that's interesting. Like I hadn't noticed that
Mm-hmm.
before. And I'm guessing that's kind of what you're talking about is the design's a little bit different for the insoles you guys have.
Yes. Yeah, and definitely where the position is from the fore of the foot to the back of the foot. When
Right.
people think of arch support, they think of one location. They think,
Right.
oh, just around the arch. Actually,
Yeah.
it's not. It's starts right behind the first metatarsal head, so your big toe joint,
Right.
all the way back across your medial side of your foot on the arch and around your heel. So that's actually the support structure that we look at from. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to smell this right now, but I just pulled it out of my shoe. But yeah, I could, and like I say, other thing too is a couple of years ago, I was given a pair, and I think the bio content was like 15 or 20, and now it's 50% bio in this insole
Mhm.
that I've got here.
Yes.
Is that standard now? Or are you guys like leaning more into increased bio content, and then tell me like
Yes.
how that is performing? Because the question is always, well, if we add too much in here, it won't perform. So what are you guys seeing in terms of that as well?
Yeah. So what the big reason why we use polyurethane systems is one, there are a lot of drop in ingredients from the bio-based side. So a lot of the biochemistry or biomaterial side, there's a lot more options with polyurethane chemistry. Second, on top of that, we noticed that there's also performance improvements, especially on the tensile elongation properties of polyurethane. So, and that really directly correlates with the durability of the material and the cushioning properties long term. So using like a drop-in polyol, like a PO3G, like something from Sistera, for example, we noticed tensile property improvements right away, and we're able to maximize the bio content, really displace as much of those greenhouse gas emissions. We can look at like 70% in an insole. But we did just relaunch a close to about, it was like 87, 90% bio-based system, which is really exciting for us right now. There is a few performance benefits. We're still finalizing that in terms of the formula, but we've been able to get to near 90% bio. And that's not just looking at the polyurethane, or sorry, the polyol side of the polyurethane system. It's looking at the bioisocyanate. So we've been able to access commercial grade bioisocyanate, which is a hard thing to do in the footwear industry. And we've been able to make a 90% bio-based system. Hopefully in the future, maybe in a year or two, we'll get to 100%. But there's some things we've learned working with these high bio content systems. But at the end of the day, the durability is a little bit better, and the softness and hand feel actually has a unique feeling property to it.
So the durability is better than traditional. You got a better touch or feel to it, and then the performance is equal or exceeding at this point based on the bio base. So it's it's complete opposite from what the conversation we have like 3 or 5 years ago, where it's like it'll never happen, and now it's exceeding what it was.
Yes, the big thing is going to be cost. That's the big driver for this, and we're using a close to 100% bio-based system. Biomaterials are very expensive, so the part's going to be expensive. But as we keep working on this with brands and also create traction with consumers, I think we can drive that price down as it becomes more of a commodity, right? Rather than just a premium type item.
The higher bio content, is that more for like casual shoes, or is that also for like performance running shoes? I mean, how do brands look at that?
As of right now, I think most all casual applications, even to somewhat athleisure applications, could be high bio content systems right now. I think maybe in a year or two, once we figure out more of the performance standards, looking at high energy return systems, especially just high resiliency foams, that's going to take a little bit more time, but I see it on the horizon. It's going to be coming very soon.
Very cool. Well, Justin, I appreciate you joining us today, kind of share what's happening, and it's fascinating. I think it behooves brands to reach out and talk to you a little bit about your lab and what you guys can do for them in particular to make sure that their shoes have real life applications, right?
Absolutely.
It's pretty fascinating. Plus, I'm sure if they do work with you, you might get them a lab coat, a Hawaiian shirt, perhaps. I don't know, but
Hawaiian shirt lab coats. That's a goal for a lab.
I do want to do a big shout for Insight. They were one of the sponsors for the Footwear Innovation Foundation this year and provided funds to help us operate and kind of stand up our new competition that we've been working on. There's more to come on that, but they did it in a high tariff environment. And I think that's important that you guys are still leaning into innovation and still leaning into driving things forward, even when I think some people have kind of frozen or trying to see where things are. Insight's a real leader because you guys continue to lean in and say it's, we're going to keep making shoes and we need to keep making them better. And there's not, we can't really take our foot off the gas too much. Right. So we really appreciate that and the partnership that we've had with you guys. And I'll say, if you want to get in touch with Insight and Justin and learn more about his work and Insight, just contact me. And I'm happy to send you over their way. But as I always say, it's always good to start conversations, and just have an insight into what's happening in the footwear marketplace generally, especially product development these days. So, so Justin, thank you. I hope this was easy for you. Hope you enjoyed it as much as you did the Sustainability Summit. Yeah. It's always good talking to you.
Always good. Likewise. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, folks, thanks again for listening. Shoe and Show. Shoeandshow.com is the website with all our episodes. New episode drops every single Monday. And if you're listening to this all the way to the very end, I will say, check your insoles. Maybe you need a new pair. Just a little advice there. You never know. It made a big difference in my shoes. So I appreciate that. But until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.